Welcome back to the podcast.
Season 2, Episode 2!
Woo! Season 2, Episode 2. Welcome back, everybody.
You're welcome.
Happy Podcast Tuesday.
Thank you, B.
Best day of the week.
Justin in a week. Justin in a week.
No, best day of the week.
The best day of the week.
Justin in the
Let's
week.
introduce ourselves.
Who are we?
No Paul Tutton
No, Paul. Who?
Thompson.
Thompson. Welcome back.
And I am the cool, relaxing Jeff.
Cool, relaxing Jeff.
Wow.
Every week, a different
Yeah,
Jeff.
cool, relaxing Jeff. I like that one.
We should have done that in the Startcast anniversary. Just go through and play all the different names that he had.
That'd be fun.
The Jeff Stud, Big Jeff Cool, Pete Jeff.
I'm Pete.
I'm Olivia. Welcome back.
The cool Jeff.
Cool, relaxing Jeff.
The cool, relaxing Jeff.
Why do you feel cool and relaxed today?
I am.
It's kind of like the Smurfs. You just have a different adjective every week for
Mm-hmm.
your name.
No. That's a Smurf drink, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice and blue.
He's drinking a blue drink. For those of you at home, don't be everyone that can't see this.
Cheers.
He's raising it up, toasting you.
Cheers to Powerade.
Cheers to episode 2. Here we
He
go.
can become a
Who's our guest today?
Our guest today is
Steve Greenlee.
That's
Steve
right.
Greenlee.
Photokirk.
Where's he from?
New
Zealand.
Press
Every time.
Herald.
The Portland Press Herald.
That's right.
Portland Press Herald, Pete.
Should be fun.
Yeah.
Okay, Jeff.
Excited. He's air drumming right now.
Okay.
I don't know.
So today we're going to have an interesting show. We're going to have, of course, our interview with managing editor of the Press Herald.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to have our Ask Noel segment,
Can't
back
wait.
by popular demand. We'll see if
That's
we've got any questions awaiting Noel today. And then Jeff is going to tell us about what his new segment for Season 2 is going to be.
Can't wait.
Stay tuned for that.
All right. You
Yes.
ready? Dive in?
Yes.
All right, Jeff.
We'll be right back.
All right, we're back, and here's Noel with the bio for our guest, Steve Greenlee.
Yep. Steve Greenlee is the manager editor of the Portland Press Herald. Steve joined the Press Herald as managing editor in July 2012. Steve was hired from
Hired.
the Boston Globe, where he spent 12 years in a number of roles, including editor of Page One features. Before joining the Globe, Steve held a faculty variety of positions at the Portland Press Herald, Maine, from 1993 and 2000.
Yep.
Including featured editors, city editors, night city editors, and city hall city reporters. Steve is from Warwick, Rhode Island, and is a 1991 graduate of the University of Rhode Island. Steve is a jazz critic, musician, and runner who has competed in every Beat Should Be 10K since 2007. He and his wife have 3 children. Welcome, Steve Greenlee.
Yay! Welcome, Steve. Thanks for coming on.
Listeners like you.
Not listeners like you, not yet. All right, so Noel has the first question. Go ahead.
Tell us about your job at the Press Herald. What does the managing editor do?
Okay, well, it's a little different every day, and sometimes it's crazy, and sometimes it's not so crazy. But basically, what I do is I direct and oversee the news and editorial operation for the newspaper. So everything from getting involved in deciding what stories reporters work on to helping the assignment editors figure out what they should cover that day, how to deploy photographers, what the copy editors need to focus on, what the front page should look like the next day, what the website looks like. So in any given hour, I could be talking to the political editor about some story at the State House that's breaking, to help determine how many reporters need to cover it, whether to treat it like a big story or something small. I could be talking to the website editors about how to play a story online, whether to make it a big featured presentation or put it down lower on the page. We pay a lot of attention to what people are reading throughout the day and how they're reading it, and that helps us make decisions about how to play stories. By the end of the day, we're looking at what the print newspaper is going to look like for the next day. So what stories go on the front page, whether the stories are ready to publish, whether they need more reporting. It's a big job, and I'm kind of always on call, so it's pretty much a 24/7 job. Sometimes I'll get calls in the middle of the night if something big's happening.
Yeah. Sounds like you're busy.
Yeah, it's a busy job.
Definitely.
I appreciate you taking some time with us.
My
today.
pleasure.
Yeah, thank you.
Jeff, you're up next.
Yes, Pete. Did you answer?
Always.
Always know you want to work in journalism.
Yeah, I pretty much did. Most that's not the usual path. A lot of people figure that out later on, or they figure it out in college. When I was a kid, I delivered newspapers like a lot of kids, and I started reading the newspaper probably when I was 11 or 12 years old. I started reading some of the columns that were in the newspaper, and I thought, oh geez, that person can write something and it reaches all of these people, and it can have an impact. So that's kind of what I want to do. So I started thinking about and preparing to go into journalism from a young age. And when I was choosing a college, I went to the State University in Rhode Island, and I chose that school for two reasons. One, I could afford it, and two, they had a daily newspaper, so I didn't really care so much about going to class. I wanted to be the editor of the daily newspaper, so that's why I went there.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Noel?
What is the most challenging part of your role as editor?
Oh boy, that's a really good question, and that's a hard question to answer. It's probably most challenging when there's a story you have to do, and you're going to get a lot of criticism for it.
Yeah.
And that happens a lot with political stories. It'll happen if you have a story where an elected official, whether it's a Democrat or a Republican, is on the hot seat. You're gonna get flack from one side or the other.
Yeah.
There's a sort of a truism in journalism that if you're getting criticized from both sides, then you did your job well.
Yeah.
But it happens a lot with stories about race or gender discrimination. Lots of stories sort of set off fireworks, and having to defend a story that is not popular but is the right thing to do is often challenging. We get a lot of blowback from certain people, some elected officials, some business leaders. You write something or publish something negative about them, and you're going to hear about it, and being able to stand up and defend that is can be stressful sometimes.
Absolutely, I bet.
Jeff?
Well, we'll do the later side of the question.
What do you find to be the most rewarding
part?
The best part of your job.
Rewarding part of your job.
There we go.
Oh, that's a good question too, and that one's easy for me. It's when we publish something that results in change happening. So let's say we publish this. Well, okay, so last year or the year before, we did a story about the Main Care Ride System, which it's a state-sponsored program that helps people who are poor, in some cases have disabilities, get to their medical appointments. And it wasn't operating right a couple of years ago, and people weren't getting to their medical appointments. In some cases, they were just being left on the side of the road, wondering where their ride was. So we spent a lot of time looking into that, investigating that, and ended up publishing stories that resulted in change.
Wow.
We did a big package of stories a couple of years ago about businesses that were abusing tax breaks, and that led to some changes in state law. So that was rewarding. And then publishing stories that change the way people view other people, whether it's stories about transgender people who are often it was something 5 or 10 years ago that they were probably suffered. I mean, they still suffer a lot of ridicule, but attitudes are changing.
Absolutely.
And I feel like it's our responsibility to be part of that.
Yeah. There's a lot of reward then.
That's
great.
Could probably almost run that main care transportation story again.
Yeah.
Is it happening again?
Yeah, it's we work a lot with the transportation system. It's difficult.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, we'll look into that again.
Yeah. Hot tip. Your turn, sir.
This must be a busy time to look in news. Does it ever get difficult trying to keep up with everything happening?
Yes, absolutely. 15 years ago, even 15 years ago, there was no Twitter.
Right.
And 20 years ago, there was no Facebook, and the pace was slower back then. And even when the web was a thing and we were publishing to web, it still felt like a daily cycle. Yeah. So something happens and you have all day to look into it and publish. And now we're on it's not even an hourly cycle anymore. Yeah. It's minute by minute.
Yeah.
Every minute you got to keep up with what's happening, and that goes for learning about what's going on in the world, but also publishing it.
Yeah.
So when news breaks today, it's a matter of getting something up quickly within minutes. Right. Not even like you have an hour to do this. Yeah. It depends on the scale of the event. Right. But the flood of information that is coming to us today is crazy. I mean, a big part of it is what's happening to Washington and what's happening in Washington. There's how many scandals a day are we seeing now, and how many pieces of the scandal are coming each day. It's a mess.
Yeah,
It is hard to keep up.
Definitely. Well, here's a follow-up. You guys got it right.
Do you think the use of
social media
makes reporting the news easier or more hard?
The answer to that question is yes. It's both. It makes it harder and it makes it easier.
Yeah.
I probably should have said that in the other order, but it makes it easier because we learn about things very quickly now, and not just from other news organizations. So when the president does something, we learn about it immediately because there are reporters in Washington and they're posting about it on Twitter. The Supreme Court makes a decision, and it's on the Washington Post and the New York Times very quickly on their social media. But there's a lot of false stuff being spread on social media too, and it complicates things. So all kinds of rumors on social media all day long that turn out not to be true, and then people don't know who to trust and what to trust. And if you work in a news organization, you like to think that people realize they can trust a legitimate news organization, but it doesn't always play out that way. So but it makes it easier in that it's very easy to we find out about things very quickly.
Yeah.
But it's a mess of information too, and the way people use social media these days is some of us say it's the worst thing that could happen to democracy, because people tend to follow people they agree with,
right,
or news sites they agree with. So if you're a conservative person, you might only follow these websites and news services, and if you're liberal, you might only follow these, and we don't see the kind of exchange of thought that we used to before Twitter was around, and Facebook and all of that.
Yeah, it is a lot.
Yeah.
For sure. You're up next.
What are you
Hoping
the future of the Press Herald looks like?
Well, I hope that we continue to publish the kind of important journalism that we've been publishing for years now. The reality of the business is that it becomes more and more difficult to fund it, because as people consume their news on digital devices, computers and phones, a lot of people think it ought to be free. And that's in part the news business's fault, because we trained people to expect it to be free for a long time, and it's only been 5 or 6 years where we've been asking people to pay for it. But if we don't get people to pay for it, then we're going to go out of business. We're not going to have any money to pay for the journalists, because the advertising revenue is not there anymore. So I hope we continue, and I believe we will continue to have a strong team of journalists publishing important stories. I also think the future is going to be people reading their news on electronic devices. I don't know how long we're going to be printing a printed newspaper, but it wouldn't surprise me to not have a actual physical printed daily newspaper within 5 to 10 years. Maybe we only publish a Sunday newspaper, and during the week it's online. We may still have an e-edition so that you can read the printed newspaper in electronic form, but everybody's going to be we're going to be helping people go to digital only news consumption in the next 5 to 10 years. And a lot of newspapers are farther along than we are. We're in an older state where people prefer to have a printed newspaper, so I think we have a longer runway. But some states are, some newspapers and some places are farther along in publishing digital only some days.
How many staff are the Press Herald?
In the newsroom, I'm going to say there's about 90 people in the newsroom, full and part-time. It's probably 75 to 80 full-time people, and then some part-time employees. We actually have a good-sized news staff for a city this size, for a region this size, and it's because we're locally owned. We're not owned by a chain where they slash and burn. So we've been fortunate to have a series of local owners who care about the quality of the journalism. So we have a good-sized staff for a region this size.
That's great. Jeff, you're up.
That's a good segue to the next one.
Yeah.
What is it like working for a main newspaper company compared to working for the Boston Globe?
So the Boston Globe is a huge news organization. When I started working there almost 20 years ago, there were about 550 people in the news department.
Wow.
And so you didn't know everybody you worked with. And there were people who worked in the news department. I worked there for 12 years, and there were people who worked there the whole time who I never met.
Wow.
Yeah. So here I know everybody, and it's a smaller newsroom, and it feels more like we're all in it together. At a bigger paper, you can sometimes feel like you're competing against your own colleagues for stories. So this is a more collegial atmosphere. Everybody gets along really well, and I often feel like the stories we do matter more to the readers we have than stories published by a bigger newspaper. We hear from people all the time about stories we publish. I mean, I would go in my department at the Globe. I would go months without hearing from readers, and here I hear from readers all the time. So I feel like we're closer to the people we cover, than you might find in a bigger city. But it's
Good or bad. Right?
yeah, it's both. It's both.
Yeah.
It can be good and it can be bad. It's mostly good, but sometimes, and when it's bad, it can be really bad. But to me, the most rewarding part of being at the Press Herald over the globe is feeling like everybody works in the newsroom as a family. It's a collegial atmosphere.
Nice. That's awesome. Noel.
Yeah. Do you have any
Stories.
stories or moments with the paper that you are most proud of?
Boy, there are a lot. There are a lot of them. The story we did about the company that was abusing tax breaks was really rewarding because they were taking money away from Maine taxpayers. But another, and I love it when we do stories that are centered on human beings, that expose some kind of wrongdoing, that put somebody in a terrible situation, and then other people read about it and they're in a position to help out. But I'm also really proud of our work on climate change stories, because there aren't a lot of newspapers that have, especially our size, that have somebody dedicated to covering climate change. But we've made it a priority. We have one reporter who covers the environment. We have another reporter who is making climate change a major part of his beat. So we've devoted a lot of attention to that. We did a series of stories about 3 years ago about climate change in the Gulf of Maine. The Gulf of Maine is the second fastest warming body of water on Earth.
Yeah.
And enormous changes are taking place in the Gulf, and nobody was really paying attention to it, apart from scientists.
Right.
But the general public wasn't paying attention to it. We did a 7-part series exploring all the ways that climate change was affecting the Gulf. And it was a finalist for Pulitzer Prize. Yeah, so that was a nice moment for us.
Jeff, you've got the last regular question.
Okay. We saw you play in a band that plays at the Special Olympics events. Tell us about your best band.
Were you there?
Yeah.
You were there at the Special Olympics?
You were. I don't think he was, but Noel was. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm the keyboard player in Under the Covers.
Oh, fun!
I play in a couple of bands actually, but Under the Covers has played the Special Olympics victory party the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Both times I've done it. I hope they say they're going to have us back again next year, so that would be great. That is my favorite. We play a lot of shows over the course of a year. That has been my favorite one to play, both because of the number of people there. There's a couple of thousand people in that arena, and the people who are there just seem to appreciate the music so much.
Yeah.
The enthusiasm from the crowd, the athletes, the coaches, it's so great. They're dancing, they're clapping.
Yeah.
It's absolutely my favorite event of the year to play. But I've been playing with Under the Covers for about 3 years now.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so fun.
Yeah.
All right, well, those were our formal questions, and now time for the tough round.
Uh-oh.
Noel, what's the time for?
The lightning
The
round.
lightning
Right.
round.
Uh-oh.
All right, so
Am I timed? You're not going to time me.
no timing.
Still pretty loose.
Yeah.
Jeff,
Very.
you go first on this one. All right. Digital.
Digital news or print news?
Oh boy, that's the impossible. You put the hardest one first. That's the
Sorry.
impossible question. I can't choose between those. It depends on what time of day it is. First thing in the morning, I'm reading the printed newspaper, and then I immediately go to the website right after that. Throughout the day, I'm on the website all day long. I pretty much read the printed newspaper first thing in the morning. I go through the whole thing, and then I put it aside and I don't touch it again. So. It's the printed newspaper for the first half hour of the day, and then it's digital for the rest of the day.
Nice. A little bit of a tie. That's
Yeah, it's a little bit of a tie.
Noel.
Yeah, Maine or
Rhode Island.
Rhode Island.
Easy. Maine.
Good answer.
I love Maine. I've lived here twice, actually. So my wife and I are both from Rhode Island, and we moved to Maine right around the time we got married. And then I got offered a job at I worked here, at the Press Herald for 7 years as a reporter and an editor, and then I got hired by the Boston Globe. So that's where I wanted to work.
Yeah.
So we moved down to Boston, and we weren't in the Boston area for very long before we said, how do we get back to Maine someday?
Yeah.
So we thought we would probably end up retiring to Maine, but then this job came open and we got to come back here, and we spent time outdoors. We love the quiet. There's no traffic. Boston, when I worked in Boston, you just sit in traffic all day long. But the number one reason I wanted to come back here was so I could see the stars at night.
Oh,
That's
awesome.
what we like.
Jeff?
Night owl or easy rising?
Oh boy, I'm an early riser. I am up at like 5 a.m, reading the paper, then I go out for a run in the dark.
Ooh.
And but then I fall asleep by like 9:30 at night.
Definitely early
Sounds
riser.
like my house.
Yeah.
Yeah. No?
Where is your favorite place to eat in Portland?
All right, I'm gonna cheat on that one. My favorite place to eat is at my house because my wife is the most amazing gourmet cook.
Nice.
That I can't eat out, and there's nothing compares to eating her food at home.
Yeah. Oh, good answer.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Jeff?
What's your favorite Maine brunch?
Beach.
Well, I
Brunch.
like brunch, Beck.
Yeah.
I like the lakes and ponds more than I like the ocean. So I might pick we've spent the last couple of summers up. 1 week in the summer up at Emden Pond,
Nice.
which is 2 hours north of here. But if I'm going to pick a beach, I'm probably going to pick Popham Beach just because it's so long and you can get away from whatever crowds you find on a main beach.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Your turn.
If you could have a superpower, what would it be and why?
What would it be and why?
Oh, boy, that's a hard one.
Tough questions here.
I tell my kids I do have a superpower. My superpower is parallel parking.
Ooh, that's a great superpower.
I used to tell my kids, they used to call me Tomorrow Man when they were little kids because they would, I would tell them what was on tomorrow's front page before the paper came out. And so the paper would hit the porch and they'd be, Dad, how do you know what's going to be in the paper tomorrow? I don't know. That's a hard invisibility because I like to sneak around and see what people are up to.
Yeah.
Maybe I would pick invisibility.
That's a good one.
That'd be a good trait for someone in the news business.
Yeah.
Right, maybe that's where it comes from.
Jeff, you get the last
one.
Oh, we know it.
Okay.
You already know
Hit
it.
it.
No look.
Tell us about your best joke.
Oh
us
my
your
God,
best
my best
joke.
joke. Okay.
And if you don't have one, they have one.
I have. I want to hear yours. I'll tell you mine, then you can tell me yours.
You might have one.
Jeff, let him go first, and then we'll do yours. Okay.
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Interrupting cow.
Interrupt.
Moo!
Oh, that's a good one.
That was a good one. Do you want to tell yours, Jeff? Go for it.
Yes.
Let's see what this one is this week.
Octopus.
What? Is it a knock knock joke?
Oh,
Does it start with
Octopus
knock
who?
knock?
oh yeah. Not.
Who's there?
Owl.
Owl who?
Owl you.
Owl you.
Owl you.
It's always blank you.
Okay.
You need a new punchline, Jeff.
That can be dangerous.
Yeah, that would have been a better setup. Well, those were all the questions we had for you. Thank you so much.
My
for
pleasure.
listening, Steve. Awesome. All right, Jeff, we'll be.
We're gonna be right back.
The Stripecast is brought to you by
Listeners like you and Kayla Markier.
Kayla Mercier. Yay! Shout out to Kayla for being our listener of the week. Thanks for tuning in and being such a great friend to everyone here on the Strivecast, but especially your friend Jeff.
Any special messages for Kayla?
Yeah.
Yes. I miss you so much.
Mm-hmm.
But thanks for listening.
And thank you for listening.
and I brush my teeth and wash my
And I miss my telephone calls to you every morning.
Oh, well, you're doing
That's
great.
so cool.
Cool. All right. Thanks, Kayla.
Thank you, Kayla.
Thank you, Kayla.
Thank you.
I miss you.
And
We'll be right back.
All right, we're back, and it's time for our newest segment, Ask Noel.
If you have a door, you go into the door. All you have to do is heat up, and you ask the Noel.
And you ask the Noel. Beautiful. Yay.
What do you think
All
about
right.
I don't know if I like it.
I don't know if I
The
like
verdict
it.
is still out.
All right, well, Pete, we got some emails from some listeners, right, who have some questions for Noel?
We do. Our first one is from Tina, and she is from Louisiana. And her question is, she says she's 39 years old. She's wondering, two-part question, is she too old to go trick-or-treating? And if not, what should she dress up as?
You're never too old to go trick-or-treating.
You're never too
good
old
advice.
to go trick-or-treating,
Yeah.
okay? I don't know, if I get teenagers or something in my house, I don't like it.
Believing.
Seeing is believing. So what should she dress up as?
I'm a Cinderella.
Cinderella.
Tina from Louisiana?
You heard it here first.
Cinderella is your best
And you're
option.
never too old to trick or treat.
Absolutely.
Because seeing is believing.
What's
if
that
you
mean?
see a jack-o'-lantern,
Mm-hmm.
you believe it.
Believe it how?
Because it's from, not like the North Pole, but it's from the pole where all the pumpkins are from.
The land where the pumpkin...
South Pole.
South Pole?
Yeah.
Oh,
Pumpkin. South Pole pumpkin.
Interesting.
Okay.
okay.
Jeff, what do you think about that? Is Tina too old to trick or treat?
How old are you?
39.
I
Tina can't hear. Well, she can hear us, but she can't.
I was just, if you're 39, I'd say
Pretty close to your age.
pass out candy.
Pass
Stay
out
home and
candy,
pass
yeah.
out candy.
Good advice, Jeff.
Yeah, I mean, if you're 39 years old, only teenagers actually
Or younger.
Or kids.
or kids go out trick or treating,
Mm-hmm.
and when they come to your door, just give them some candy.
Good advice, Jeff. Very nice. So, two differing opinions here for Tina.
Sometimes parents can dress up as Halloween.
And she could probably dress up while she passes out her candy.
That's right.
Yes, that is right.
So, you could dress up at Cinderella at home.
And pass out candy. Or seeing is believing.
Seeing.
And you and your self-pole jack-o'-lantern can get out there and get it done. Yeah?
Whatever that is.
Okay.
Okay. We have another question for you, Noel.
Halloween pool.
Not Halloween poll. Jim from Hallowell, Maine wrote in.
Halloween.
Hallowell.
Hello, Hallowell. You're on with
Halloween,
Ask Noel.
Different Halloween.
Jim in Hallowell wants to know. Jim says, Noel, I would like to make more money in my life. How can I make more money?
All you have to do is have a roof over your head and financial things and think about all the things you can do, like voting and taking out the trash. And
How's taking out the trash going to get Jim more money?
Yeah.
I know.
Okay.
To help the government to make more money.
He's not trying to help the government make money. He's trying to make
wants to help
himself.
get more money.
Jim's trying to put some bread in his pocket.
Yeah.
All you have to do is work
Oh, get a job.
There
and
you
get a
go.
roof over your head.
But maybe what Noel is saying
He
is,
probably has a roof over his
yeah.
head.
But maybe Noel's saying what you have is enough. You know, all you really need is a roof over your head.
Is that what Noel's saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Jeff, over to you. What do you think Jim should do to make some extra money?
If you want to make some more money, Jim, I recommend probably get out in the community
Mm-hmm.
and maybe
Work.
probably find a job in a house that and you can work at.
Okay.
Like maybe fixing like a drain pipe or
Oh.
A drain pipe.
So he's going to pay himself to fix his own drain pipe, or somebody else is going to pay him?
yeah.
So he'll do that in somebody else's house.
Yeah.
Yeah, the trades are a big
Yeah.
Yeah.
thing right now. You can make some good money.
Yeah. I was just thinking.
All right. Good advice, gentlemen.
Let's see Winford.
Okay, so I think that's all the questions we have for this week's Ask Noel. But starting with our very next episode, we'll be able to play the questions live
Yep.
if you leave them on our voicemail.
That's right.
So the number for Ask Noel is you can give us a call at 207-774-6278, extension 352, I
That's
believe.
right. Yep.
Extension 352 is the Ask Noel hotline.
Yep.
You can leave your question, and if it's a good one, we'll play it
Play it
right
on the
here
air.
Yeah.
Yes.
as part of the Stratcast.
That's
So
right.
stay tuned to see if your question makes it onto the air. And if you have any questions about Ask Noel, just send it in an email or leave us a voicemail. But our email is strivecast@pslstrive.org. All right?
We'll be right back.
Strivecast is brought to you by.
You add here.
Your ad here.
Reach out to us at strivecast@pslstrive.org, or you can give us a call on the Noel line, I guess, at 207-774-6278, extension 352.
Boom.
You
Amazing.
can ask a question for Noel, or you can also inquire about advertising.
Absolutely.
We got a great special, a year-end special going on right now. For only $100 a month, you can get on the Stripecast.
For how long?
5 weeks, 5 Tuesdays, a special 1 week free.
Great.
So, advertise with us, Stripecast, pslstrive.org. We just looked it up. We've eclipsed by far the 5,000 listener total
Woohoo!
to date. So that's pretty exciting, and continuing to grow the Stripecast brand. So jump on board.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Can't wait. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right over there. Okay.
Or thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Will be.
We'll be right back.
All right, we're back with our new segment. Instead of yakking with you, we have
Jeff time.
Jeff time.
Yakking with you is out.
Yakking
Jeff
with you,
time
no
is
more.
in.
All right, Jeff time. What are we doing for Jeff? What are we doing
It's
for Jeff
all
time?
yours, Jeff.
Yeah, go
Okay,
ahead.
cool. Ocean life.
Ocean life.
Octopus.
Octopus.
What is your favorite ocean animal?
Are you asking us?
Yes.
Whales.
She'll say whale.
Yep.
I'll say shark.
Noel, what's your favorite ocean
Dolphin.
life? Dolphin.
Oh, good. Wit.
It's a dolphin marina.
I think I like starfish.
Ooh, fun. Their
Ryan.
mouths are on the bottom.
Favorite ocean.
Lobster.
Lobster. Good answer. And Jeff, what about you?
My favorite seafood is
To eat.
actually it's crab cakes.
We know.
Crab cakes. Your favorite ocean animal is crab cakes.
We had a bunch of crab cakes at the wedding we went to last weekend.
Oh yes. And
Take it away, Jeff time.
Yeah, it's your segment.
What is your favorite crab is?
Are there different types? Soft shell, hard shell? I don't know different types of crabs.
Eagle shell or hard shell?
Pete?
Hard shell.
Hard shell.
I like soft shell.
Okay.
Okay. What about you?
Soft shell.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. What else about ocean life are we talking about with Jeff time?
What,
Mermaids.
Yeah, I mean, mermaids. What's your favorite mermaid is?
Ariel.
Peter Pan.
Peter Pan's not a mermaid.
Peter Pan's not a mermaid.
No, not him, but those ones that were giving him air in the water.
Oh, yep. When he goes into the water. Good call.
I don't remember that.
How about the woman from Splash, the movie? It's like old.
No?
There's not a lot of mermaids out there
Yeah.
to choose from.
That's about all I got.
There was a merman movie, Disney.
How about what's your favorite mermaid?
My favorite mermaid is a young mermaid.
Any young mermaid? Because
In my age.
your age.
An age-appropriate mermaid.
That's right.
That's exactly
Love
right.
that. All right, keep it going. Let's keep this ocean
Segment
life.
is off to a rough start.
Are you still listening?
Octopus.
Are you fascinated? Owl.
What is your favorite fish?
Go ahead.
Oh, me?
Yeah.
I have to go first?
Yeah.
My favorite sport, outdoor sport.
No, your favorite fish.
I'm gonna say playing outside with
Yes, I am going to say bass.
Ooh,
Haddock.
haddock.
Ooh, are we talking eating or catching?
Yeah, what? Just favorite fish
Crab
in general,
cakes.
or favorite type to eat?
Yeah,
Haddock.
And to eat, salmon.
cod.
Swordfish.
Tilapia.
Yeah, right.
Tilapia. Ooh, good one. We have time for one more ocean life question.
Okay, cool.
Thanks.
What do you think about a porpoise?
Caribbean.
What about
What
a
do you
porpoise?
think about a porpoise? I think they're cool.
I've never eaten a porpoise.
A porpoise.
Maybe we should
It's got a bunch
name
of
that.
quills in the ocean.
It's like quails in the ocean.
Yeah,
Did not know.
yeah, and
Let's Google what is a porpoise.
and
Porpoises are very cool.
Wow.
Wow, I
didn't
didn't
know
know
that.
that.
oh, thank you.
Can you tell me more about that?
Yes.
Interesting. Great answer.
What is your
Favorite porpoise.
favorite fish? Big mouth bass or smallmouth bass?
Oh, I'm going to go largemouth bass.
Big mouth. For sure.
Noel, do you have a favorite bass?
Yes, I do. A basset.
Doesn't everybody?
A basset.
Ah, basset hound.
Get it?
Great answer.
Is a good answer.
We're using
Okay.
our cue cards, listeners. All right, well, this has been a great Jeff time. We'll tune in next week to see what the topic is. We're going to change it each
And
week.
or if Jeff Time is back.
Yeah, we might hear from our listeners say they want that canceled. So we'll let
Or
you
Jeff
know.
Jeff was talking about changing it up.
Yeah,
Some sort
so
of
maybe,
test.
yeah, we're testing it out. Flexible.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll be.
We'll be right back.
Pex-
All right, we're back, and it's time to
Wrap it up.
Wrap it up, wrap it up, wrap it up.
Wrap it up.
Wrap it up.
Wrap it up.
Wow.
Oh, scratch
Thank
it.
you so much to our guest, Steve Greenlee, for coming on the show. We really appreciate it. That was a great interview, right, guys?
Yes.
That was awesome.
That was awesome.
Yeah, thank you so much. Should we do some updating events?
Yeah,
Sure.
What is the updating?
Well,
of
what's
that?
coming up in a couple weeks?
About a week.
About
The
a week now.
auction.
The Strive 15th annual Strive auction.
October 23rd.
See you there, Italian Heritage Center in Portland.
Yeah.
400 silent items, 10 to 12 live
And
items.
It's not gonna be the mustache up here.
Peter will not have a mustache.
No, the picture at the old auction.
I don't think I've ever had a mustache at an auction.
Remember?
I gotta tell you,
Remember when Jason
tell you with what.
Briggs a long time ago? It was an old picture of you with a.
What does that have to do with the
auction? That off
Auction off a picture of me with a mustache?
and a beard or something. It was a picture.
Put that
of
in again,
you.
Whitney.
And we were a couple of years ago. We're gonna auction off that picture.
I think that was a picture of Jason.
Oh, of Jason.
Yeah.
Glad we did that conversation, though. So we'll see you at Strive's auction Wednesday, October 23rd, 5:30 to 9 p.m.
Tickets
Italian
are
Heritage
on
Center.
sale.
That's
now.
right. PSLstrive.org/auction.
auction.
Moving right along, in January we have our 20th anniversary celebration. Whoop,
Boom.
whoop. January 25th,
2020.
2020. We'll
20th
see you there.
anniversary.
Mary Poppins.
Will not be there, probably.
Probably not.
Maybe she might be our keynote speaker. We're
Yeah,
looking for
we're
a great
looking
keynote
for one.
speaker.
Yeah.
You know anyone?
And Jonathan James Hook.
Okay.
James Hook?
No, Jennifer James Hook.
I
I
don't
don't know who that is.
So we'll see you there. Details to come about our 20th anniversary
Save
event
the
soon.
date.
Save the date. Anything else you want to talk about, gentlemen?
No.
Ready to go?
I'm
Barry
good.
Williams.
Happy
Very
birthday
nice.
to everybody whose birthday it is, as usual. HBD from us at the
Oh,
Stripecast.
I have one more question.
Go ahead.
Not about this.
Okay.
Well, then
Well,
we'll
then
run
all
that off
right.
the air.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you next week.
Peace.
Please share.
Bye.
Peace.
Bye.